What's up, everyone? This is Brett.
This is Matt.
And we are here for another Rants video. And today we're actually going to be doing a comparison between Far Cry 5 and Far Cry 6. And we're going to find out which game is actually the better game.
It's going to be Far Cry 5 versus Far Cry 6. Who will win the knockout drag out?
Alright, let's go ahead and start on Far Cry 6 and Far Cry 5 campaign mode. Which was the better one?
I'm going to go with 5. The reason for 5 is because the intro. The intro makes and breaks the game. It started out so great on Far Cry 5. I didn't like how long it is, like I said, on the prologue. The prologue was way too long for Far Cry 5. Honestly, I wish you could go through it in a multiplayer aspect with a co-op. Because, you got all these gamers out here wants to go through it together.
Or a skip button would help. After you've seen the cutscene about 20 times, you're kind of like, okay, that initial cutscene. I don't mind the other cutscenes, but that initial one.
That cutscene is long.
It is horrible. Horrible.
It's long.
But it does get you into the game. It explains a lot.
It starts who the villain is and where the story is going.
And as far as the Far Cry 6, the initial, cutscene and, just the initial moments in it, I don't remember too much when it comes to that, simply because it wasn't really, to me, something that stood out and explained things.
Wasn't memorable, but I can tell you what happened.
Oh, yeah, I can remember, the gist of it, but I'm just talking about it didn't give me that, that experience of okay, this is a summary. I'm into it. I know exactly what's going on.
I didn't like how it started off. The prologue, you're running from the president because he's trying to collapse the country. Well, the one thing I didn't like is how one of the cutscenes, the president comes in, shoots up a boat full of children and women.
Yeah. But now, as far as the campaign in general is concerned, though, I really enjoyed Far Cry 5.
Far Cry 5 had basically 3 main characters in that. Actually, 4. It was about a family that went corrupt.
Yeah, and that to me, each one of those family members
was memorable.
It was memorable and had their own personality.
They did.
And I kind of felt like that made this game unique. Now, as far as Far Cry 6, I feel like...
Okay, the Far Cry 6 campaign, the main character sucked. I did not enjoy it. Because they basically put a man that was never in the military... Well, it says he was in the military, but got kicked out. What's connection? How is he so good at what he does? And then happens to save the world. In Far Cry 5, they had a sheriff deputy that was trained to go in and get rid of this. Yeah. In Far Cry 6, they just have some random come up and say, hey, I'm going to save the world.
And now we're the bestest ever.
Yeah. It's
because of why? There was... So as far as the gameplay is concerned when it comes to the campaign, I feel like...
Far Cry 5
was far better.
It got you involved with the main characters.
Yes,
it got you involved. The storyline was great. I go to Far Cry 6. This dude Donnie is going to go kill the president. Isn't that terroristic threat?
I just kind of feel like when it comes to Far Cry 5, I just feel like Far Cry 5, the campaign initially, set it above. In my personal opinion,
it's definitely a step up because it kept you drawn in through each character.
Now, as far as multiplayer is concerned, what did you overall think of?
Like I said,
who do you think had the better multiplayer?
I honestly think Far Cry 5 did. Yes, they had less to do, but they keep it basic. I think it was cool that I could go take a bunch of shots and go punch a moose across the map.
Yeah. I felt like when it come to the multiplayer, I kind of felt like both of them are equal in comparison on that one. I enjoyed both.
I just wish they would get rid of the boundary from separation of your partner. I wish they could be across the map and don't bounce them back.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's one downfall both of these multiplayer sections have.
Yeah.
They're about the same no matter what. I think just Far Cry 6 had a little more gameplay aspects of multiplayer. I didn't like the aspect of when you invite somebody, the multiplayer gets harder.
Both seemed like on multiplayer was a little bit glitchy too.
Oh yeah, every bit of it was glitchy.
That's kind of the problem.
But Far Cry 5, the creators probably said, hey, people are enjoying glitching.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got the 6. Well, we're going to try to replicate. Don't try to replicate something. The game's automatically broken when you make it.
Yeah. As far as me, I felt like they were equal in that standing. You feel like
About the same. About the same.
Okay. All right. Now, as far as like side missions is concerned, I really, when it comes to Far Cry 5, the side missions is what got me interested in the game. I love the side mission. I love the creativity. I loved how they expanded the world and the people inside the world using the side quests. I never got bored with the side missions because I felt like there was always something unique and different. Now, as far as Far Cry 6 is concerned, I thought while it did have some good side quests, I felt like a lot of it got old really quick. I enjoyed the rooster one where, you know, you're fighting the mutant roosters, but I didn't really enjoy the callback to what was that series?
I guess Stranger Things movie.
I did not enjoy that one. There was a lot of ones where you had to do music videos and you had to, you know, do things for like the radio.
Well, that's considered campaign.
And things along those lines. Yeah, but a lot of it was side missions.
Well, okay. First of all, on Far Cry 5, the side missions. The side missions characters, this is what's a big part. The characters on the side missions were memorable.
Yes.
There was an old guy with a cigarette. You had to go find all of his veteran buddies' cigarette lighters.
Yeah.
To get his ammunition stash. Now, I thought that was pretty cool. They added it into the game. But I could go over here to Far Cry 6 and do a Stranger Things mission. If you're in that type of lore, which is cool, you know, not everybody is. But none of the side mission characters, except Carlos. Carlos was memorable, and what's that other one? Tigre.
El Tigre?
El Tigre.
Yeah, El Tigre was probably the only character in Far Cry 6 I really cared about. Like, I did enjoy
They
some
killed
of
him.
his side.
And they killed him. And I'm like, what kind of game does that to a favorite character?
But as far as the side quest is concerned, I felt like they were very repetitive.
On that, yes.
Not on that one. But as far as, like, let's say graphics is concerned.
Graphics is a big difference between both of these games. Far Cry 5 had so much graphic added to it that when you go to each section of the map, it was different.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing Far Cry 6 had going for it was the water. Water you could not go into because of sharks. You couldn't dive. You couldn't get the chest or nothing because you had to worry about sharks. That's where I wanted to go in Far Cry 6, but they wouldn't let me go there.
That was pretty much the middle finger to me as a gamer. I felt like that the creators were given when it come to Far Cry 6 is the only memorable thing about the graphics in that is the water, and it's the one thing that I just could not even touch because I get eaten by a shark. So I was like, you know what? Why make it so beautiful? If you made the entire world that way, I would have said, hey, you know what?
You can do that in Far
really
Cry 5. In Far Cry 5, the water's pretty. For mountains, seeing it. The only thing is they could have done a little bit better with the bottom of that water because they basically made it like the grass, and they could have done better on that.
I feel like as far as even the people are concerned, I feel like maybe they're a little bit even in that regard. But I still would give the upper hand to Far Cry 5.
Far Cry 5 has the upper hand on graphic-wise.
I would even say Far Cry 4 has an upper hand on graphics to a certain extent.
It beats 6. It'll beat 6 any day.
Yeah, I definitely would.
For how old that game is, I rate it the same as Far Cry 5.
I played that game not too long ago, and that game's still incredibly fun.
It is.
But as far as, you know, like we touched on the characters a little bit. So the characters to me in Far Cry 6 are just not memorable.
Like I said,
but I remember so much.
That character, Danny, was not. I think they could have done better. Honestly, these creators don't sit here and realize, oh, this is what people are going to want.
Mm-hmm.
If they would keep it just like the 5th one, they might have had a better shot. If they would have came up with 4 different new villains in that same setting, it would have might have been a good storyline.
I kind of felt
they could have made El Presidente have like 3 different kids that were running 3 different parts of the. I think that would have been a great storyline.
I think it would have been too, and I felt like, you know, a lot of the main bosses that you had to fight on that were very
just
forgettable.
lieutenants and sergeants. I'm
Yeah.
like, come on.
And they were very forgettable, and
They didn't last that long. They were not
really.
long-lasting battles. You did not get relationships with it.
Yeah, you know, the battle scenes when it comes to actually beating them are not memorable at
I
all.
can get a rocket and take his freaking helicopter down.
I know. It was just very simplistic, and I did not personally enjoy the
Far
characters. in it.
Cry 5, on the other hand, every mission was different.
I can remember like 10 or 12 different main characters of Far Cry 5.
I can remember
only think of,
each
like,
ending scene with them.
Yeah.
That was a battle upon battle. That was the hardest battles that you ever fought. It was like boss battles.
Yeah.
You go to the boss battles on Far Cry 6, it wasn't good.
Now, as far as Far Cry 6 is concerned, as far as the guns are, though, concerned, I feel like Far Cry 6 was far
Okay,
better.
I understand where you're going with this. It's graphics. Okay, I understand that. That's a graphics
Oh,
part.
I'm talking about the weapons. I'm talking about the
Yes,
guns.
there was more, but I did not like the rating system they had in Far Cry 6. I didn't like if I use a rank 1 gun, it doesn't do as much as a rank 3. I do not like that. I want a gun, all guns do the same damage.
Yes. Yeah, I would actually agree with that. But as far as the difference between the guns, I feel like Far Cry 5 had very basic guns. Yes, the guns worked better in aspects, but I felt like it was just very basic.
I like that I can buy the guns I want and I won't have to go unlock this other necessary stuff that I don't need.
And that was a pet peeve that I had also, too. But I enjoyed the ingenuity of Far Cry 6.
The ID aspect, you liked it, okay? But the problem was, as I like to go, if I see a gun that I want that's the most powerful, I'm going to buy it.
Yeah, I totally get that.
Because all guns do the same, except, like, the only reason I like Far Cry 5 the most on guns is because of the MP40. I like the MP40.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great gun.
I mean, I just felt like Far Cry 6, they had a lot more memorable guns, and they had a lot more, the gameplay of just using the weaponry in Far Cry 6 is so much more fun than in Far Cry 5. So, I mean, to me, I would personally give Far Cry 6 the upper hand when it comes to
I'm going to give Far Cry 5 the upper hand due to that I can buy the gun and they all do the same thing. I didn't like the aspect of each gun has a better shooting thing, and I don't like that.
Now, as far as maps is concerned, I think we kind of touched about that, when we were talking about, the campaign earlier. The maps, Far Cry 6 has a bigger map. But it was more basic map.
Like I said, I honestly think if they would cut down the size of the map, it wouldn't be that bad and change the scenery up a little bit. Because basically it's all the same. You cross the next hill, it looks like the hill you just passed. And the roads look all the same. The buildings look all the same. You go to Far Cry 5, every hill's different. Every road's different. Every building's different.
And you actually know where you're at by looking at.
They have road signs we can read.
Yeah, but you actually, when you play the game enough, as much as I played Far Cry 5 and 6, Far Cry 5, I can see a building and I can know exactly where I'm at. Far Cry 6, I see jungle. I see
Palm trees that look the same 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, I see, these little towns that
And
all
the
look
trucks
the same.
all look the same. There's nothing different about the trucks, the tractors, nothing.
No, and
And the tanks. I like that they have
horses all look the same to me. Everything looked the same to me.
Well, the zebra horse,
Well, fair enough on that one, but I'm just talking about just overall. It just felt like very generic.
I just enjoyed Far Cry 5 map because I like that the aspect of you have flatlands, hills, and mountains.
I felt like I was actually in
Missouri.
a real place.
Yeah, it was like in Missouri.
Yeah, I felt like I was in a real place, a logical place, a place that, I could see myself in real life. Where in Far Cry 6, I
don't want to go to the desert. I don't want to go to the tropical climate.
But in Far Cry 6, I just kind of felt like, wow, it's just very basic.
It is.
And I didn't, even though it gave you more, I felt like it gave you less when it come to.
I kind of rate the map the same as Red Dead Redemption 2 online map. It's about the same size. I consider it the same thing. You get to hunt in the game, you get to hunt in this game, and you get to skin it, you get to skin in this game. There's really similar comparisons in this game. I understand you can hunt, but you don't get nothing for the skins of Far Cry 6. You cannot hunt in that game and get money.
Now, as far as the villains are concerned, it's a no-doubter for me. I think Far Cry 6 villain is better than Far Cry 5.
So the reason I like Far Cry 5's villains is just a lot better storyline with them.
Yes, I will give you that.
Okay, they have the best. I like that there's 4 different villains, and I get to 4 different boss fights. I have to go through a lieutenant or a captain or a major. I don't want to do that. I want to fight his siblings that created that story.
I felt like Far Cry 6, they failed in what you're talking about there, where they just like, hey, face this lieutenant in so-and-so region.
Find this lieutenant.
And then, you get maybe one cutscene with that lieutenant. You don't know anything about his backstory. You don't know anything about his history. You don't know who he was personally. Where in Far Cry 5,
villains had a backstory.
Yes, and you might not have cared for them, but you at least knew where they were coming from.
Now, I'm not saying Far Cry 6 did not have a bad villain. I like the character that played the villain. I just think they could have done better.
I think Far Cry 6 had the better villain, the more realistic villain, the better villain overall.
But to be honest,
I just wish they were giving more cutscenes.
Is he really a villain? He's kind of political. It's all about politics there. He created a cure for cancer, but for 6 months, then he started dying. I don't consider that a villain. I consider that politics.
Yeah, I kind of felt like there was too much, when it comes to Far Cry 6, there was too much of this
politics.
Hey, look, let's talk about the TVs and
then threw America under the bus.
Yeah, and I felt like there was a lot of different little aspects when it come to that was annoying. But as far as the villain overall, I felt like he had a more reasonable way about him than
I consider him a politician. I don't consider him a villain.
Yeah, well,
that's why I'm leaning towards Far Cry 5. That was a pure villain.
So overall, the rating of it, I mean, between Far Cry 5 and 6, which is a better game?
Right now I'm going to rate Far Cry 5 as a B.
I would rate it as a B too. I think there's definitely some things, after doing a couple playthroughs on Far Cry 5, more than a couple, I feel like there's some real downsides to Far Cry 5 when it comes to the villains, when it comes to the initial cutscene.
You get to know them a little bit better.
Yes, some of the missions are a little bit outlandish. Now, as far as that, I think the guns are a little bit more generic, especially after playing Far Cry 6. But overall, I still enjoy that game immensely. And it's still one of my favorite games of all time.
It's just fun to play with other people.
Now, as far as Far Cry 6, what would you kind of rate that?
I'm going to rate it as a D+.
D+, I would give it, I feel like I'm being generous. And I feel like I'm going against the grain. I feel like both of us are kind of going against the grain when it comes to this. But I feel like I'd give it about a D too.
It's just a game that had potential, but the creators didn't take it to the potential it needed to be.
I felt like the same thing with Borderlands 3 happened with me in this one. They tried to make it where, hey, let's look at the bloggers and the YouTubers and all these other things. Let's make music videos. And there was too much of this with the music. It felt like an 18-year-old had made that, in my personal opinion.
Like a college student.
Yes, and more than a more realistic view of life. But overall, Far Cry 5...
It's on the top of our rating list.
Yes, it's on the best.
I think it's a game that everyone should play and enjoy.
Now, I think overall, you know what? We might need to do a video over which is the better game, Far Cry 5 or Far Cry 4. I feel like that would be a little bit...
They're going to be tight.
That would be a better one because I feel like there's some things I love about both those.
I love both of them.
Far Cry 4, I still love that game. But overall, guys, let us know what y'all think. Which do you think is the better Far Cry game? Far Cry 5, Far Cry 6? Let us know in the comments down below. And as always, guys, thank y'all for watching. Take care.